Hello,
Hey, hi Mario.
you have a cold? Oh,
Yeah, no, but I got hoarse for some reason. I don't know why. I feel
mm,
fine, but just I can't speak too loud.
okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm. Hi, Abe.
Hello, how are you?
Very
Hey,
good. And you?
Okay, so far.
Good.
Hmm.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good
hi
evening.
Johnny.
Good.
Everybody's here but the boss.
Good evening.
Okay.
You know, silence? Mhm.
I will send the two letters to Ernie.
Okay. I added a question mark.
Oh, okay. Why are you jumping?
Why not? I'm moving the screen.
Oh, okay.
Last night, he also took a long time. Ah, Sean, okay,
Oh.
good.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. We're on 112. Good for
Mhm.
days. We talked about if you collected the blood from a korban and you sprinkled it outside and then you did it inside. So we said you're chayiv for chorus and you get atonement. Shekula roy liyos bifnim. The blood was ready to be put on the mizbeach, but that's if you did it first bachutz and then bifnim. But aval bifnim ve'elam bachutz. If you first put it on the inside, and now you've got atonement, and now helam bachutz, well, the remaining blood is just shirayim. Shirayim has to be poured on the yesod. It's not ma'akev. Why should you be mechayiv? Kores, the korban is valid without it. Oh, says the Gemara, Hamani from Nechemia. The Omar Shari Adam Shekrivim Bachutz Chayiv. He was of the opinion, if you remember when we learned yesterday, that pouring the Shari Adam is ma'akev, and therefore, by offering it outside, you're chayiv. That's only one tanim, Rav Nechem. Well, if you're going to tell me Rav Nechem, I'm a seifa. The seifa changed the case. Kibel dama b'shnei koisos, where you receive the blood of a korban in 2 cups. And we said, Nason shneim bifnim potter. If you applied both of them to the mizbech inside, of course, you're potter for halah b'chutz. You didn't do b'chutz. Shneim b'chutz chayiv. Because both are roy to be put on the mizbech. So if you offer them both outside, you're also chayiv. Now, if you started off echad bifnim, you did the first one inside. Now, the echad b'chutz, if you're going to tell me it's Rav Nechemia, the second one is shirayin, and you just told me according to Rav Nechemia should be chayiv. Why does it say potter? Vam Rav Nechemia shir adam shekim b'chutz chayiv. Seifa sonos common. Rab Elazar, Rab Shimon. We moved away from Rav Nechemia in the Seifa, and the opinion of the Seifa is the Tana who argues with Rab Elazar, Rab Shimon in another mission. De Omar kos oisedich lechavero. That when you apply, if you have blood in 2 kosos, there's machlokas. What's the status of the other kos? Is it considered just shirayim, or it's completely nidcha? So, uman talig the polik Rab Elazar, Rab Shimon is the one who says that the second cup becomes nidcha, and therefore by putting it on the mizbeach outside, you would be potter. But according to the Mandaomer, that is who argues with Rab Elazar, Rab Shimon, who now the Gemara is revealing to us as Rav Nechemia, it doesn't do dichoy, it becomes shirayim, and therefore you can apply it like according to Rav Nechemia, and if you apply it on the outside mizbeach, you get kares. Then the Mishnah gave us an example. Lama davar doime, lamafish chatoso. A person ate chaylev. He had to bring a chatas, so he was mafish an animal for a chatas. V'ovdan got lost. V'hifish acheres tachtea. And he separated another animal. Now, achakach nimtze sarisha. Now he has both animals because the first one is found. So they're both ready to go. So that Gemara made a comparison to the 2 cups of blood that are ready to go. So the Gemara says, "Lamad davar doime lamed." What do I need to be given a lamad davar doime? Homani Rebbe. Because there's a machlokas about when the animal gets lost. Domer avuda b'shas afroshas mesa. So if you lose your chatas, and then you designate another one, and now you found the first one, and let's say he chooses one of them, according to Rebbe, the second one becomes invalid because it's a chatas shekipru baleh. And that, according to Rebbe, it's whether the original chatas was found before they did the zrika of the first one or after. According to Chachamim, if you originally shechted the chatas and did the zrika, and only after that do you find the first one, then it's a considered chatas shekibri bala. But if you found it before you did the zrika of the first one, then you could offer either one you want. V'hachi kamar, and this is how you have to understand the Mishnah. Time of the Avda. You know why you're not chayiv for shechting on the outside? Is because the Bailim had already gotten atonement from the first chatas, and according to Rebbe, the second one is invalid, and that's why you wouldn't be chayiv for chatas. But But let's say he had, from the get-go, separated two animals as a guarantee that he knows. Let's say if one of the animals dies or is lost, I have the second. The second one most likely will have to go to pasture until it gets a mum, and then it becomes an ola. So therefore, it was really its destiny was to become an ola from the get go. Therefore, you were makravit on the mizbeach outside. You're chay. To Ravuna Marav. Asham shenitik le'riyah. An asham that was sent out to pasture. Ushchato stam. You didn't have a designation when you shechted it. Kosher la'oila. Because it's always, the money is always used to buy olas. The Gemara says, "Midami hasam asham zachar va'ola zachar." Both an asham is a male and an ola is a male. Avachatas nekevi. How can you say that it's an ola? The chatas is female. On Rav Chia b'soyer nasi. That type of chatas is not female; it's a male. When the soyer when the nasi has to bring a korban chatas. Therefore, it's not a problem from a male turning a female, and we can treat them all as olos. Susie? Sue? Could you bring me a napkin, please? Thank you. Mishnah, 14th parak, Paras Chatas. Paras Chatas, a paraduma. Now, paraduma is shechted outside of Yerushalayim, and you burn it outside of Yerushalayim. And then the ashes of a paraduma, of course, is mixed with water, and we sprinkle on people who are tamei. It was burnt in a special pit. Paras chatash sarfa chutz migita. If you burnt it not in its pit, the goat on Yom Kippur that was sent lazazel. So it was never offered on a mizbeach. So in both cases, potur. You're not chayiv for offering it in the unusual way. Shneamar, anything that you're chayiv kores for offering it on an outside mizbeach has to be al pesach or moed lo avio. You know why you did wrong? Because you didn't bring it to pesach or moed. Well, you know what? Sorry, Mishtalech and Paras Chatas are not roy to be brought to oil moed. They're not offered there. And therefore, there's a general principle. Kol shein roy lo oil pesach or moed. If it's not fit to be offered on the mizbech in the Beis Hamikdash, shein chayav olav. If you shecht it outside or do something outside to it, not part of its normal process, you're not chayav. Okay. We mentioned previously many invalidations which were done by kodesh, like the korban became tomei, or you took the korban outside of the azora, or you had a bad machshava. What was unique about those is that you really shouldn't be zoyrek the dam on the mizbech lechatchila, but if you did, you can leave it there. Therefore, those types of korbanos, if you shechted them or did the action as rika outside on an outside mizbech, you were chayiv. Here, the Mishnah is going to list invalidations that are so bad because they're invalidations from the get-go. They were never roy from the get-go to be a korban. And these ones, if you happen to put them on the mizbech, you'd have to take them down. And the rule is, anything that would have to be taken down wouldn't be allowed on the mizbech. If you burn it, or makriv it, or do anything on an outside mizbech, you would not be chayiv kores. Now, what are these invalidations? Haraveya. The animal lived with a human being, or anirba. A person lived with an animal. Ve'amuktzah was designated to be worshipped. Never, it was worshipped. Va'amechir. You bought a dog, but instead of paying cash, you used this animal. This animal was then designated as a korban. Or v'ha'esna. An animal was given to a zona for payment for her services. Va'klayim. You hybridized two animals. Or an animal, or v'hatrefa. It has one of the yudches trefas, one of the 18 trefas. Or yotzei dofen. It was born through a cesarean section. Any of these korbanos shekrivim bachutz, you offered them on an outside mizbech potter. Sheneamar lifnei mishkan Hashem. Kol shein roy lovo lifnei mishkan Hashem. If it cannot be brought to Mishkan Hashem, in Chayov Nolav, you're not Chayiv Kores for offering them on an outside Mizbeach. Baalei Mumin. If an animal has a mum, Bein Baalei Mumin Kvuin, Bein Baalei Mumin Oivrim, whether they're fixed mumim or passing mum, Shikrivim Bachutz Potter. But Rab Shimon Oimer, Baalei Mumin Kvuin Potter. I agree. If it's a fixed mum, there's no kores, but bali mumin oivim chayav v'lo sase. Now there's no kores, but it's a lav that you would get malchus for. Torim shloigi mana. A bird that is offered before their time. They have to reach a certain status. Their feather, their body has to be a certain size. Their feathers have to change color as a sign of maturity. Torim shlagi zman of neyona shavar zmanan. Torim are turtle doves and yona are pigeons. Shikrim bachutz potter. There is no chiyuv kores. Rab Shimon Oimer, bnei yona shavar zmanan potter. If the bnei yona are too old, or Vitorin Shlogiyaz Manab, or the turtle doves have not reached their age. So if you offer them on a Natzah Mizbech, it's below Sase. It's a lav, not kores, but it's a lav. Now you're not allowed to shecht a mother and a child on the same day. Also vespino. And then you try to offer one of them on Natzah Mizbech, you'd be potter, or mechusar zman. The Gemara will explain what that means. Reb Shimon Omer harei zeh below saseh. You are chayiv, but you're not chayiv kores, you're chayiv alav. Reb Shimon Omer kol shehu roi lovo lachar zman. If you just wait a little longer, then you could bring the korban, and you brought it to an outside mizbech, harei zeh below saseh. But ein bo kores. But there's no kores. The Gemara will explain the pasuk. The Chachamim amrim kol she'ein bo kores, ein bo lo saseh. If there's no kores, there's no lav. Now, what did we mean by mechusar zman? Bein begufo, an animal that's not at least 8 days old cannot be offered. Bein bebaylav, let's say the owner has not reached the time where they bring a korban. Ezer mechusar zman bebalav, for example, azav. Azav counts 7 clean days, and then he brings his korban on the 8th day. But he tries to bring a korban on the 7th day or the 6th day. And you do that outside, you're not chayiv. According to the Tanakh, nothing. According to the Reb Shimon, you'd be chayiv alav. Either azav or azava, your lettuce has to bring the korbanos on either the 41st or 81st day. Hamitzorah also has to bring it on the 8th day. Sheikrivu chatosim v'ashomim b'chutz. They're supposed to bring a chatas and an asham. And sometimes they have to bring an ola as well. But the chatas and the asham, if they offer that outside, p'turin. Now, oiloi sevish shalmeim. Now, an ola and a shlam can be brought donatively. So they're always fit to be brought. So it's not mechusar zman. So there you'd be chayiv. Now, hamala mibsar chatas. When you shech the chatas, what do you do with the meat? The meat is eaten by the kohanim. It's not put on the mizbeach. Or you put on the mizbeach mibsar asham. The meat of an asham. Again, what happens to the meat of an asham? The kohanim eat it. Mibsar kodshe kodshim. For example, the shtei kvasim that are brought with the shtei lechem. Also, the meat is eaten. Mibsar kodshe kolim. Let's say bechor meiser pesach. The meat is umoisra oimer. The minchas oimer, the remainder is eaten. Shtei lechem is eaten. Lechem aponim is eaten. Shir menachos. Anything that is left over after the kmitz of a mincha is eaten. Va'ayotzek. Oil of a mincha. Va'poises. Or you break it into pieces, va-boil or mix it, va-moilech, salting it, va-meinif, waving it, va-magish, bringing it close, va-mesader sa-shulchan, or you arrange lechem aponim, or meitiv is a neros, or you arrange the candles of the menorah, va-koimet, so you do kmitza, va-mekabel damim. If you do any of these things bachutz, you're not chayiv. You're chayiv only for halah. But for all these other actions, you're not chayiv. And certainly, for putting up meat that normally is eaten, you would not be chayiv when you try to burn something like that on the mizbeach. Now, ve'ein chayavna alav lo mishum zarus. Now, a non-Kohen who does certain avodot, like Kabbalah, Hoilacha, Zrika, is Misa B'dei Shamayim. However, the things that we listed so far in the Mishnah, if a Zar does them, there would not be a chiyuv. because it's not considered an avodat tamah. There's other avodot that have to go along with it. So there's no punishment for being a non-Kohen. Lo mishum tuma. When you say you can't do the avodah while tameh, it also doesn't apply to these avodot that we list in the Mishnah. Lo mishum mechusar begodim. We said if a Kohen does the avodah without wearing the begodim, it's a lot, but not if he does any of the avodot we just mentioned without wearing the begodim. V'lo mishum shelo rochutz yadayim v'raglayim, or he didn't wash his hands. Now, the Mishnah is going to go through our history. That when are we not allowed to offer a korban outside? So when the Mishkan was operating in the Midbar, 40 years, during the 369 years that the Mishkan was in Shiloh, and after the Beis HaMikdash was built, but in the 14 years that we divided and conquered before we were in Shiloh, and the 57 years when the Mishkan was in Noven Givon, then you could offer, then there was no prohibition of offering on a bama. And the Mishnah recounts all of this. Ad shelo hukam Mishkan. Before the Mishkan was created, the first year in the Midbar, after they left Mitzrayim, hayu abamas mutaros. But vavoda b'bchoros, and the B'chorim did the avoda. We see that there were korbanos offered at Har Sinai, and that was done by the B'choros. Mishahukam Mishkan. Once the Mishkan was erected in the Midbar, Nesra Bamos, then you could not offer on a private bama. And v'avoda b'kohanim. And the Kohanim were the ones who had to do the avodah in the Mishkan. Kodshe kodshim necholim with ne'emen hakloim. The Azara was bounded by the curtains. And kodshe kodshim, like a chatas and an osham, had to be eaten there. Kodshim kalim b'chol machne Yisrael. But wherever the Jewish camp was, 12 meal by 12 meal, surrounding the Mishkan, you could eat a Bechor, Meiser, and Pesach. Bola Gilgal, when they crossed the Yarden, went to Gilgal, Hutra Bamis. Now you could offer korbanos on the Bamis again. Now, kodshe kodshim necholim lifnim and hakloim. A chatas and an ashram, you could not bring on a private bama. You had to go to Mishkan. And therefore the meat had to be eaten there, within the curtains that were erected with the Mishkan in Shiloh. Kodshim kalim b'chol makom. They could eat kodshim kalim everywhere. And therefore, you could offer a shlomim anywhere you lived in Eretz Yisrael and eat it there. Baula Shiloh Nesra Bamas. The Bamas become prohibited for 369 years that the Mishkan was located in Shiloh. Now, the Mishnah describes what the Mishkan was like there. Lo yasham tikra. There was no roof. Elabeis avonim bilvad milmatan. It was built by stone below. Vayirios milmalan. There were woven tapestries as the ceiling. Vihi aita menucha. It says, Uvas elam menucha vela It says in Parshas Re'eh, Ubasal menucha v'lanachla. And menucha was always referred to Shiloh. Again, any chatas oshim had to be eaten in the Azara. Now, this was a special nature of the Mishkan, even more than the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. You could eat kochikolim anywhere, as long as you could see the Mishkan in Shiloh, you could eat it. Remember, in Yerushalayim, you could only eat the shlamim within the walls of Yerushalayim. So there was a bigger heter regarding eating korbanos in Shiloh. Then the Plishtim destroyed the Mishkan and Balu Novagiva. The Mizbeach was brought to Novagiva. Remember, the Aron had a different path. 20 years it was in Kiryas Sarim, and then for 37 years it was in Ir David after David HaMelech brought it back to Yerushalayim, and then it was put into the Kodesh Kadoshim by Shlomo HaMelech. So for those 57 years, the Mishkan and the Aron were separate. Same thing in the first 14 years, because the Aron was where the Jewish people did battle. Ba'alu Novigivon, Utra Bamos. They came to Novigivon, the Bamos were permitted again. You had to go to Novigivon to bring a chatas and an ashram. And you could only eat the meat there. The Kohanim, Kochim Kalim, B'chol Arei Yisrael. Now that there's Bamos permitted, you can eat Kochim Kalim anywhere in Israel. Now, Ba'al Yerushalayim, the time of Shlomo HaMelech. Again, permanently Nesru Abamos. V'loyal and Heter. There was never again permission to offer Korbanos and Abama. And the Beis HaMikdash, V'hi Haiso Nachla, is called Nachla. Kochikolim Necholim Lifnim and Akloim is eaten in the Azara. Kochikolim Ma'aser Shein Lifnim and Achoima can be eaten within the walls of Yerushalayim. Now, a new rule. If an animal was designated a week before the Mishkan was destroyed by the Plishtim, so you designated an animal when there was usher to do a bama, and then he kriven b'shas Isra bam. No, calling him b'shas Isra bam is. Who's this? Yeah, I'm teaching Daf Yomi right now. You're going to have to call me. You have to call me in 15 minutes, please. 15 minutes. Thank you. So, if you were magdish an animal when it was prohibited to use a bama, the kriven b'shas Yisrael b'chus b'chus, and you offered it on a mizbech outside, hare elu b'asei v'lo sasei. You violated an asei and a lo tasei. V'chayom lov karetz. Higdishin b'shas heter abamas. You were magish an animal when it was permitted to offer it on a bama. Let's say a week before they built the Beis HaMikdash. V'ikriven b'shas Yisrael abamas b'chutz. Now they built the Beis HaMikdash, and you're not allowed to offer on a bama, but you were makravit prior, and now you were magdishit prior, now you're makravit when there's a prohibition. Again, there's not saying Allah, but there's no karetz. Higdishan b'shas Yisra abamas. You were magdishit when the Mishkan was standing. V'ikriven b'shas heter abamas. And then a week later, the Plishtim destroyed. Now you're allowed to offer it on a bama. Hare elu ba'asei. You violated an asei. But ve'en b'hem lo sase, there's no lav. Now, some things you could not offer on a private bama. Elu kochim krevim b'mishka. Even when it was permitted to offer korbanos at a bama, the following korbanos had to be offered in the mishkan. Kochim shehugdu shel mishkan. Such as korbanos tzibur. A public korban had to be done in the mishkan. So kraven b'mishkan, they had to be offered in the mishkan. Korbanos hayachid b'bama. A person's private korbanos could be offered at a private bama. Korbanos hayachid shehugdu shel mishkan, but if you as an individual made a vow to bring your korban to the mishkan, yakriv b'mishkan. If you make kriv b'bama patur, you're not chayiv anything if you didn't do it, but lechatchila, you're not chayiv for a law, and there's no kares. But there's an aveira. So uma bein bamas yachid the banas tzibur smicha. So you didn't lean if it was on a private bama. Ushchita suffer. There was no north. That's only in the Mishkan. Umat and Savi, putting blood completely around the korban. Okay. This will stop here. We'll pick up tomorrow. Tomorrow we will learn the daf at 7 o'clock. And the tzurba will be done at 8 o'clock.
Are we at?
All right. Good
Well,
night.
no, yeah.